Hello and welcome. Today we're going to get into something that, let's be honest, we all deal with emotional change. That feeling when you just want to move on from something, but you feel, well, stuck. We're going to explore the really fascinating science behind why that happens and what our brains are actually doing when we're not even trying. So let me start by asking you this, because I think it'll sound familiar. Why is it that the harder you try to get over something, a nagging worry, a memory from the past, the bigger and stronger it seems to get? It feels like a total paradox, right? But it turns out there's a very real neurological reason this happens. We have all been there. You know the drill. We tell ourselves, just think differently, or just stay positive. And when all that effort, all that pushing, doesn't get us anywhere, we turn it on ourselves. We think, I must not have enough willpower. But what if I told you that entire approach is based on a misunderstanding of how our brains work? Okay, so that brings us right into our first section, what I'm calling the effort trap. We're going to unpack exactly why trying so hard so often backfires. Think about your brain like this. When you're awake, its number one job is to be a security guard. It's constantly scanning for threats and trying to keep everything stable and predictable. So that resistance you feel, that's not a flaw in your character. It's a survival feature that's literally designed to keep things the same. And this is where it gets really interesting. Look at the difference here. The waking brain, its job is threat detection. It's in a state of high resistance, which means it defends all the old familiar patterns. But then there's the sleeping brain. Its job completely shifts to emotional recalibration. Resistance plummets, and suddenly it's open to creating new meaning. It's like they're two totally different operating systems for your mind. So here's the real kicker. When you use willpower to force change, you're basically yelling, there's a problem here, at your brain's security guard. And what does it do? It doubles down on the old familiar patterns to keep you safe. The very act of trying harder becomes the anchor that holds you in place. So if all that effort is the trap, then what in the world is the escape? Well, that brings us to Section 2, the brain's nightly update. And trust me, this is where the whole story changes. Now, this principle right here flips everything we've been taught upside down. We think change requires this huge burst of motivation, right? Tons of willpower. But the science is showing us the complete opposite. Real, deep, emotional change doesn't happen when we're pushing with all our might. It happens when our internal defenses are down. And this incredible process has a name: active emotional recalibration. It sounds a little technical, but it's simple. It just means that when you're asleep, your brain isn't just off. Oh no. It is actively running a kind of maintenance program, working to process the day's events and, get this, turn down the emotional volume on tough memories. Okay, so how on earth does this nightly update actually happen? Let's dive into the mechanics in Section 3, Rewriting Emotions Without Fear. This is just amazing. So during specific stages of sleep, your brain hits the mute button on the chemicals linked to anxiety and panic. It literally creates this safe, calm neurochemical bubble where it can revisit things that would normally send you into a spin. And here's exactly how it plays out step by step. First, that fear chemistry goes quiet. Then the brain starts to replay emotional memories. But, and this is key, without that jolt of anxiety. Because it's a safe replay, the intense emotional charge starts to fade. And finally, that fading allows a new, less painful meaning to form around the memory. It's basically your brain's own built-in therapy, using safe, repeated exposure. And let me be really clear about this because it's so important. The goal here isn't to erase the past. Your brain isn't deleting files. It's just uncoupling the memory from that raw emotional reaction. The memory is still there, but the painful sting is gone. Now, this process is incredibly powerful, but it's not a one-and-done kind of thing. And that leads us to our next big idea in Section 4, repetition over intensity. We all love the idea of a single, huge, dramatic breakthrough moment, right? But that's more Hollywood than neuroscience. The brain doesn't really update its programming through big, intense events. It updates its meaning through something much quieter, gentle, consistent familiarity. It just calmly replays that memory over and over until it becomes just a memory. So the real secret sauce here? It all boils down to this one word: consistency. It's not about one night of perfect sleep or one big insight. It's about consistently giving your brain the chance to enter that low-resistance state night after night so it can do its work. That gentle repetition is what rewires our emotional patterns at the deepest level.
So what does all this mean for us, really? Let's pull all these threads together in our final section, a new way to change.
And I really want you to hear this. If you've struggled to change something in your life, it was never because you were weak or undisciplined, it wasn't a character flaw. You were simply pushing for change during your brain's defensive hours, instead of understanding and working with its natural update window. So, the real takeaway from all this is a whole new playbook for change. Instead of trying to force things, we learn to work with low resistance. Instead of searching for one intense moment, we prioritize gentle repetition. We can finally drop the self-blame knowing it's about process, not just pure willpower. And maybe most importantly, we can learn to honor our brain's own natural timing. So, I want to leave you with this final thought to chew on. We so often talk about change like it's this epic battle we have to fight against ourselves. But what if it was never a battle to be won in the first place? What if it's just a quiet, natural process that we simply needed to understand and then allow to happen?